I never pray to God anymore. I'd rather no one hurt me. Redemption, I have waited for you to come and drown all my sin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is another race day tonight here at Suzuka for Season 1 of the Mixed Multiclass Mini Enduro Series for Raceface. Bit of a fun 4-race series, just filling up the end of the season. Of course, we finished off with the Sprint Cup for the GT4s on Wednesdays, and now we have Mixed Multiclass replacing it on this Wednesday slot. And this is round 2 here at Suzuka. Random track conditions are on the cards, so qualifying right now looking like it's pretty dry, but it could go into the wet. And I have the greatest pleasure this evening of introducing a voice into the commentary box that is going to be a new one for you guys, and it belongs to a gentleman that has been so passionate about sim racing. He's been wanting to get involved with the commentary side. He's been sitting in on streams that I've done in the past, both locally and internationally. And let me not introduce him for any longer, or let you guys wait any longer. Carl Petzner in the box with me. Carl, so good to finally have you with me, man.
Thank you very much, George. It's actually an honor to be here. Like, I didn't think this day would actually come after nagging and sitting for hours on end. I did not expect it to happen at all.
Well, Carl, it's an absolute pleasure. I think that's part of the beauty of sim racing, is that getting everybody involved where they want to be involved. And for me, being able to give you a little bit of a lifelong goal of yours and let you come and do some commentary, that's great. And I love having someone with me. So to be honest, I'm the one that's lucky in this scenario. Otherwise, I have to do an 85-minute race by myself. So having you here with me helps me out a lot. And of course, the drivers here, Carl, currently in quali, so they've got 16 minutes left on the clock before we've even started to see some times come onto the board. We're busy looking at that GT4 of JC Grobler, and of course he's in the GT4 class.
Yeah, George, it's actually, out of all the GT4s, it looks like top 5 is only 2 GT4s, but it's still very, like, it's
still competitive. I mean, the fact that there's only 7 GT4s in the class or in the field doesn't really matter. We are going to start to see some GT3 times coming in whilst we talk about that at the same time. So of course, GT3s and GT4s, they have to set a quali lap on the same circuit during the same time, and JC was kind of caught up amongst the GT3 traffic there. So he was in a slower car class, but caught up with some of the GT3 guys trying to set their time. So we'll see Strauss set an initial pole sitting lap of 202.469, but it will be topped out by the likes of Brandon Kruger in that Ferrari up at the top of 201.527, coming out from the number 23, and it will be Ryan Ottens to round up the top 3 pole sitting positions. Of course, Kruger coming out on top of that. Then we've got King, McCall, Delport, and then the 2 GT4s of Grobler and Siebold, who have got themselves around the circuit so far. And then below them, I mean, you can just see how many cars are still yet to set times.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be in for an interesting race. Especially mixed class, you don't know what's gonna happen, but when it comes down to GT3s and GT4s, those GT3s are just gonna be insane, but you never know how it's gonna go, especially with...
I mean, that's exactly it. As you're talking about it, you see a GT4 having to give way there to Cornet Strauss and his GT3 coming out through 130R. And I mean, that's the difference in pace that you're going to see. These drivers are going to have to try and thread the needle all the time. And with qualifying still kind of in its early phases at the moment, it's really anyone's game to see who's going to get up towards the top. We know that the McCall brothers are an unstoppable force, and both of them, you know, coming out here, I think it's going to be an interesting case. I see Morgan is already up towards the front of the server in 6th place at the moment, but he's still out looking for some more time. Let's jump down through a couple more cars. Of course, Fraser Cooper from Kai K in that 387 Aston Martin. He's going to get himself up into 7th place so far. Delport from Kai K as well. The 858 McLaren 720S is going to be 7.2 seconds off the pace. So you can see that Delport is kind of struggling at the moment just to set a time that's competitive in his GT3, but he will definitely go out and improve on his time. He is going to be exiting the pits now as we speak about it. So like you can see, busy pit lane, busy circuit as well. So looks like 6 or 7 cars all exiting the pits at the same time, whilst we have a field of, I believe, 29 cars, 7 of which are GT4s, and the balance obviously being GT3s. It's a very busy racing circuit.
Definitely is, George, but as you can see, this track is not one where there's a lot of overtaking opportunities. So you have to also do perfect timing, but also make sure you don't mess up your racing line, because you will have someone behind you a hell of a lot. So
I mean,
that's really going to be interesting.
It's a good point, Carl, because like you said, the overtaking opportunities here are few and far between. It comes down to being at the right place at the right time to capitalize off of it. Maybe the likes of Spoon, Corner, or even into this final chicane, those braking points, really the places that you can explore. And we've even seen, you know, people trying to brave it out around the likes of the first 2 corners. Morgan McCall will be coming across the line now. I don't think he's up on his lap. He will be going out for another hot lap now. So he's looking to chase down at least another 3.2 seconds if he wants pole position. It will be the likes of Brandon Kruger still up at the top. He's just gone to improve his lap times. He's just done a almost a 2-minute flat, but a 2.690 going to come out for that Rinaldi Racing number 23. He's going to peel off into the pits, and he's going to leave the rest of the field behind him to chase down. Look at those GT4s. I mean, they are getting competitive. JC Grobler is ahead of Arno Versace, which, if you guys remember last week's race, Arno Versace was driving around and pretty much overtaking GT3 cars in his GT4. So he was out of class, but he was finishing, I think he finished within the top 12, I believe. Maybe I might be wrong with exactly where he finished, but at one stage he was most certainly up towards the front of the order. And right now, it's JC Grobler that holds down that first position starting spot in the GT4s. Of course, they all start on the same grid, so he will start down the order in 12th overall as it stands. But that timing difference, 11.8 seconds off the pole sitting lap, is JC Grobler. He's going to come over the line now as well. Not sure if he's going to improve, and JC Grobler will not improve. He does a 2:15.8, so 0.3 slower than his previous lap, and he will still sit ahead of Arno Versace though. So that was really the point, is that Arno Versace in his crossbows, we see Alexis getting it all wrong out of the hairpin in the background. Arno Versace in this crossbow at Kyle Army looked so dominant. It'll be interesting to see how it sort of deals with Suzuka, Carl.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not driving the only KTM on this track, so I mean, him and Steven Koenig are gonna have a battle for the KTM, so it's gonna be really hectic. But I think with JC Grobler, you can put him in any car and he will outshine everyone with his lap times. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, Grobler has been a bit of an alien with those lap times, hasn't he? Does show up with some pretty alien pace at times, and right now he's 0.8 quicker on his lap. Arno Versace doesn't look like he's up on his, so you're just showing some GT4s some love down the order here. JC Grobler, where's he on the lap? So he's just come out of 200R, making his way into Spoon. Does he hold on to this massive gap? He's 0.7 quicker than he was on his previous lap. That's going to dip him down into the 2:11s if he sticks it to the line. This could be a very good lap for JC Crop. Of course, still 8 minutes 30 on the clock. Like you can see, it's a very early morning here at Suzuka. The sun has not come up. 3:23 a.m. The track temperature sitting at 13 degrees Celsius, as is the ambient. So not a lot of temperature going into the track from the cars just yet. And they'll be trying to keep those tires up to their operating temperature, even on the outlap. So JC Krobler out the final corner. This will be his final attempt at getting a quali lap in for this lap, should I say. 7/10 up. Does he improve his time? He crosses over the line, and it looks like he will. 2:11.793 comes out from JC Krobler, and that is certainly a good showing ahead of Vasaki. He's also just sitting 3/10 behind him now, so Vasaki going to have to dig deep. Brian Lewis is up on his time. This man also from the Retro Esports team has phenomenal pace when it comes down to specific track combos as well. I've seen him showing up relatively often, so I want to see the consistency coming to the very end. I think that's what is really going to count out here in an 85-minute race. But the Retro Neon number 204 Audi currently sits in 7th, goes dead even on his lap time as he exits out of the Daytoners. But paint color-wise on this car, Carl, I mean, a bit of Nardo grey with some highlighted purple. I always give the retro teams a bit of grief about their liveries when they don't abide to my favorite standards, but this has got like a bit of a race face theme with the purple, so I think I'm going to approve it.
I think the only thing I would approve of is the purple and the lights. I mean, being at night with those front lights, I mean, it looks like rally cars coming up from behind. So, but the only color I don't approve of is the grey, because purple and grey doesn't really go. But you know, it's not my place. So
I mean, if I'm not going to hate on the retro liveries, then you know Carl's going to tell them that their Nardo grey does not stick here. I would like to tastefully disagree. I think it's a bit of a nice combo coming out on the 204. So we'll play good cop, bad cop. Carl says no. GMAX says it's okay. I'll let it slide. Michael Finroyen in one of the other Kai racing cars. He is currently caught up in a bit of traffic with one of those GT4 Vantages, and he's going to get himself around as they get into the middle of the snake section. So always nice to deal with a car that is you know, a bit slower in front of you early on into your lap, if you have to deal with one. It's almost at a situation now where you can't avoid it. Carl, another part of this stream, which is always fun, is the fact that we talk to our chat as well. And I've pulled them up. We've got a whole bunch of cool people here. Bego ZA says, "Hey Carl," in the chat. Pierre Grindeling is here saying hello to everybody. Martin Yobert is here. Of course, Martin voting for BWR. We've got Jason Isherwood from the Retro Esports front of house. He's here laughing at us for their livery. Stephen Koenig is here as well, saying good luck to everybody from Tasman Cars. And then, of course, Barry Mayer voting out for BWR. BWR, one of the teams that has got themselves into Raceface. They've come over from, I believe, a lot of them raced in the Sim Race South Africa side of things, and they've managed to split their time, come and do some Raceface stuff, which is so cool. They have a massive team of drivers, and to get them coming through and representing, massive from us. So thank you to everybody that enters up. Of course, it's a team-based event. At the moment, in the GT3 class, the leading team is that ATK Academy Morgan team. So you might be asking, you know, what is ATK Academy Morgan? Well, some drivers are driving the solo, which it's a bit sad. I feel like the next team-based mini enduro event, no solo drivers. I want to have everybody pairing up, and even if you don't have a team, then you just you have to get fielded with somebody else. I think that will make it a lot more fun on the circuit. But yeah, Morgan leads things out. So then we've got the Kai Racing team, Muten Null team, of course, Gian Muten and Johan Null. They're currently in second place. And then Junior McCall's ATK team is sitting in third. I haven't actually seen Junior in the timing sheet. Well, there it is. He's up at the top. That's why, isn't it? He's in 3rd place at the moment. And the Lamborghinis of Junior and Morgan, as well as Bernard King, showing us that perhaps the Lamborghini, a surprise favorite pick at Suzuka.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, a Lamborghini would be a good pick for this track. But like what you said earlier with the weather, with it being so changing and everything as time progresses, when it comes down to it, the weather is going to affect the GT3 and GT4 no matter what car you have. So I think that's going to also play a major factor in this track.
Very good point. I mean, we can't really make the decisions just based on the quali conditions where it is dry. That random weather effect could come out and open up the heavens and bring some raindrops down. I personally do agree with you on the Lambo being a good pick out here. It wasn't too long ago that my WRG team managed to clinch a win in the Suzuka 6-hour. Of course, Jordan Sherritt joined us up for that, and that man himself is an absolute beast. But yeah, I mean, talking about big enduros for prize money gives us a little segue point into the 6 hours of Spa, brought to you by Medal State and the Republic of Gamers. ASUS getting involved. Raceface, of course, we're always involved in those things. So 6th of December, registrations are open on the Medal State website. $4,000 up for grabs for the winning team. I think it's a $10,000 prize pool. There's prizes for the AM class as well, down to 3rd as far as I remember. So if you guys are interested in getting signed up, we'll broadcast that race as well. 6 hours on the 6th of December. It's going to be crazy. We want to see you there.
Definitely. It's going to be actually one for the ages. I mean, 6 hours of Spa is not going to be easy, but let's see who enters and see what they have in store.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, 6 hours. Whew, it's a good endurance stint. Spa, a good racetrack, one of my favorites, best racetrack in the world almost. We can't always say that when we've got Kyalami and ACC now. I have to show my bias. I always vote for Kyalami. If it's Kyalami versus Spa even, I vote for Kyalami. It's in my blood, I can't help it. But Spa, one of the racetracks that I am a big fan of. So for me, that's going to be absolutely mega. Cannot wait to see who enters up. The previous Enduros that we have done with Medal States have absolutely blown up. We've had incredible turnouts to each one, and I think this time around we're going to see even more entries than what we saw before. Just showing you the qualifying times as we get into the last 40 seconds of that qualifying session. Up the top, the McCalls going absolutely ham in those Lamborghinis. Then of course Kruger and Batz's Hugo, their Ferrari sits 3rd. King in 4th. Strauss and Zillan Harding, my Call of Duty teammates, in 5th place, but they're of course driving for BRS EKZ. Black Ribbon Simulations has recently launched their website. They are sponsors of our streams here at Raceface. If you guys haven't heard about Black Ribbon Simulations, go over, check out the website. They've got some really cool Sparko partnerships. They've got Sparko rigs, and of course they've got their Fanatec gear. Just keep an eye on the socials. Plenty of stuff being teased out there. And I cannot wait to see what BRS brings to the table in future seasons. Of course, in the GT3 League, they do sponsor out a pair of race gloves to the league winner. And there's also a race glove offering to the best overtake of the season. So drivers have to submit that. As you can see, so many drivers here, Carl, peeling into the pits. They're done. The qualifying time is going to tick down to that ominous 0:0:00. And this means that if you're out on your lap, you can improve your time. Giam Muton, who is currently, they're 2nd in the championship in this number 13. They're 15th at the moment. Can Muton get something over the line on the last lap here? He's 2nd up on his time. It's going to give him it's going to put him up a couple of positions. Don't think it's going to rival him up into the top 10. But it's certainly important to make everything count. So number 13 out through 130R goes the GT Kaike Racing number 13. And over the final chicane and out the last curve. And Muton, where does he improve out onto? He's lost a little bit in that chicane, but still good enough to stay a second quicker. A 203.306 his last lap time, and Will better with a 202.253. Jumps up to 13th place. Who else is out still potentially with some lap times in them? The GT4s might be rounded up. Let's see where they did finish up. It looks like JC Grobler will start ahead of Versace. Actually gets himself into the 211.7s. So he is certainly flying out in that GT4. Up towards the front, Junior McCall will lead away up at the front. And the timing session should come to an end now and start to put us onto the starting grid, which of course means that we are just a couple minutes away from starting off the 85-minute race here. And that 85-minute race involves some mandatory stops for the driver swaps, but nothing that is limited by a driver stint time or a mandatory requirement. So it really is up to all the drivers out here, Carl, to decide how they're going to split this up. If they've got two-man teams, how they're going to do the stints. If someone has a disconnect, of course, your main driver or alternate driver can finish off the entire race, which means you can cross the line. So a little bit of planning has gone into this process. But looking at this order, Carl, give me a prediction. Who's your favorite to win?
I think it would have, well, the team of Hobler and Isherwood would have to be the favorite, because, I mean, if you look at where they're standing for GT4s, Isherwood is starting off, but when they have to swap, I think Hobler is going to give all the GT3s a run for their money. So I would have to take those two for my predictions.
Okay, so you're going to support Arts on the GT4 side. I'm going to have a look into the GT3 front. And I would like to put a little bit of money down on that the car starting in 4th place at the moment. The one with the man himself, Mr. King. Bernard King in that 222. I'd like to see him maybe adding a little spanner into the works. I think that these Lambos do have a good bit of pace here. I think the McCalls have proved that up at the front they are going to. I mean, Junior McCall actually took the pole position off of Morgan on the last lap. We didn't even see that coming out. So Junior starts up in pole, Morgan in 2nd place, Brandon Kruger in 3rd, Bernard King starts 4th in the 222. The number 55, piloted by Corne Strauss, starts 5th. Hannes van Veek in at the number 27 starts 6th. Brian Lewis in the 204 starts 7th. 8th for Steven Blanche. 9th for Ryan Ottens in the number 64. And Skulk Pina in the number 38 will round out the top 10. And then just outside that, we've got Gambin, Van Rooyen, Muten, Gaber, Kutsia, Cooper, Montiero, Sienerin, Delport, Ferreira, Isherwood, Versace, Grayling, Seabolt, Basson. And, I mean, obviously, that includes the GT4's pole position going out to the 584, piloted by Isherwood. He will start in the front of the GT4s. But Versace in that KTM crossbow, I mean, we saw what he could do last week at Kyle Army. I'd like to see if he's got something else in his back pocket to bring out. Otherwise, it did look like the pace of that Cayman was almost, it's only 2/10 away from being a second quicker in quali pace between the first two places in GT4.
Yeah, between those two cars, it's going to be one hell of a show. So let's look forward to, I mean, we got 85 minutes, so anything can happen, but I think Versace might pull something out, but we'll have to see.
So if you guys are not aware already, Carl, a big fan of the GT4 class. So if you are keeping an eye out on the GT4s, you have to support them, as Debbie Smith is doing in the chat. She's shouting out for Versace. Carl will be your go-to reference for where the GT4 cars stand out. And you know what? They are the limited smaller class in this mixed field. Not a lot of drivers wanting to go over to the GT4s. Is it to do with the fact that they perceive, it to just be a slower car class? So why would I want to, not drive the big bad GT3s? I don't know. GT4s just don't get enough love, even internationally when we throw full-on GT4 leagues. Trying to get 20 drivers to fill a lobby there in a place like Racing Club International, where we've got almost 3,600 members on the board. Can't even get 20 GT4s into a custom lobby. So it just seems that drivers are a little bit too in love with GT3s. They need to break away a little bit, because for me, I love the multi-class racing. Having a 30-car grid with 15 GT3s and 15 GT4s would be an absolute dream. So maybe in the future, ones like this, drivers will heed the call. Or maybe with Raceface, we put a restriction on that there's only 15 initial spots for GT3s, and new registrations, slot down into GT4s. Who knows? Somehow, we will get more GT4s onto these grids.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that 15 GT3s and 15 GT4 grid might actually work out, especially for Raceface. I mean, seeing all the drivers that are on this grid now, it's doing a 15 GT3 and then 15 GT4 grid will be absolutely insane with these drivers. But I think the one thing with GT4s that a lot of people underestimate is they might be slow, but if you put them in the right hands with the right driver, you can outperform a GT3 on most of the tracks in ACC. So
I disagree. They still 11, 12 seconds off the pace between, top GT4s and top GT3 drivers. So there is that limiting factor between them. But the racing that you get in that GT4 class can be so close and so fun. Coming up to the line, 2x2, the GT3s are starting to line themselves up towards the front. If you're looking at the track map, you can see the GT4s indicated by the blue markers out towards the tail end of the field. But up at the front, a madhouse of GT3s prepare to enter into an 85-minute race here for round 2 of the Raceface Multiclass Mini Enduro Series. And of course, team-based series with driver swaps, random weather conditions. The race, a little bit cloudy, but no rain on the cards just yet, waiting for those green lights to drop. And there they go. Flags are away. Cars are away. Drivers having a look. Brian Lewis peeling towards the middle of the pack immediately as the front order gets themselves away in the order that they started in. McCall, Kruger, King, Strauss come through, and it looks like a nice tidy start coming out. Oh, there is a car in the background doing a little bit of a mowing service, as there is a 720 in the background too, which I think belongs out to, I need to remember the name, I think it's Hildebrandt. That was looking like he was caught off track a little bit in the background there, but beyond that, a very clean start for the opening 2 curves, making their way out through the Snake, out through the Dunlop curve, and into the Degners. Are they going to go 2 cars wide through here? Brian Lewis having a little look on the inside. Not going to do it in the background there in that Audi. He's fighting with that Lexus in front. Brian Lewis right now really wants to get past Clue. Lionel Clue going to have to go ultra defensive against the likes of Brian Lewis behind. But up at the front, a very, very nice clean start underway. And it looks like relatively unchanged down in the GT4s as well. Here we see JC Krobler is ahead of Versace, but it's only mildly. Versace all over the back end of the Cayman.
Yeah, definitely. I think as it progresses, everyone is going to be spread. There will be a carnage to have in 85 minutes. But definitely the ones to watch would be Hobler and Versace in the GT4s. But those top 3 GT3s are gonna be on each other's bumpers through this race, especially when you have to go in pits. That's gonna be your time to gain position and time on the car ahead. So you're gonna have to see what plays out.
It is so close up at the front. I mean, the top 5 are pretty close together. Top 4, should I say. Cornet Strauss getting caught up in that battle with Clue and Lewis himself. So it looks like Clue going to be putting the pressure immediately onto the likes of Strauss in response to Lewis putting the heat on from behind. The pit window will open up, so drivers who need to go into the pits will be able to do so. And you do see a whole bunch of drivers getting those little pit indicators down towards the bottom. So maybe they didn't get the greatest start that they needed. But for the GT3s up at the front, I mean, these guys all got exactly what they needed to do. Morgan gets the jump on Junior and will remain ahead of that 444. Then it's the likes of Brandon Kruger. He needs to now try and use whatever he can to this advantage. He needs to keep King behind him in that Lamborghini, and he needs to try and see if he can chase down the two McCall brothers in front.
Yeah, but I think also he's going to definitely have his work cut out with the two McCall brothers. But if one of them makes a mistake, I mean, since they both so tied together, if one of them makes a mistake, Kruger is more than likely going to capitalize on that error. So it is going to be one to watch, but have to see how it goes. Because we've got 85 minutes, so yeah, going to be a tough one, but
Krobler and Versace are going to keep themselves honest in the GT4s. They are going to peel away from the likes of Siebold and Grayling. So these two are certainly looking like they're in a little bit of a class of their own. Siebold holds down third at the moment in the GT4s. And then you've got Grayling, Bassoon, Samuel, and Richardson. And then down in 24th overall is Koenig in his KTM Crossbow. So still looking to capitalize where they can, the GT4s. They're all keeping themselves relatively in sights of one another. But very soon, those pit stops will come into effect. You aren't wrong there. Pit stops come down. GT4s get caught up by GT3s. There's going to be traffic on the circuit, and everybody's going to be having to, try and find the best way through. You see a couple of cars exiting out from the pits as well. Delport at the moment has Mutin behind him, putting some pressure on. It's a little battle between the McLaren 720S and, of course, that BMW M6, the 858 versus the number 13. And off track goes an Aston Martin, and hopefully does not rejoin the circuit in the wrong place. Hasn't looked to have done so, and keeps himself out of trouble of the rest of the field. But JC Grobler and Arno Versace are ahead of some GT3s too. Hildebrand, Kutsia, Van der Merwe, and Gaber, who served an early pit stop. They're all ahead or all behind these GT4s. They're going to have to get through this. Grobler is a fair way away from Mutin in front of him, so he's got plenty of time to just settle in now. There's an hour and 20 minutes of racing. The first craziness is done, and you see that Ferrari just making some space, letting these drivers through, letting them get on with what they need to do. And it's all about that respect on track. It's not a wide circuit. It's wide, but the amount of circuit that you use at the speed that you use makes the circuit relatively Delport, big mistake there. He's got the slapper through spoon. He's going to have to take to the grass. That will promote Mutin. And the 858 of Divan Delport. Small little mistakes like that can cost you the race if you make them time and time again.
yes, especially when it comes down to Suzuka, it's one of those, like, I wouldn't say difficult tracks, but if you make a mistake going through a corner, you are gonna get penalized for it, whether it be going off track into a wall, or you're gonna have opponents come past you, and it's just one of those things that will happen. But
it's not a that difficulty level is more a technicality level, and to find the tenths and seconds that a lot of these guys yield on other drivers is difficult to do. Making overtakes is always scary. Brian Lewis maybe trying to have a look through the inside of Dignal 1. He wasn't. It was just a little fake out to just show the likes of Lionel Clue that he is there. But the BWR Scorpions number 27 Lexus doing a great job at the moment at showing us how to defend against Lewis. Look how much time it is costing the likes of Clue. He cannot catch up to Strauss if he, is hounded by Lewis, and Lewis cannot catch up to either of those two cars if he's being continuously defended against. So it's a good defense coming out from the Lexus at the moment, but at this stage of the race, you always say the mid-pack needs to work together to keep the front runners honest, and now it will be a side-by-side moment. A little bit of a mistake from Lionel on the exit. Lewis will get past down the back stretch into 130R. He's going to be just a tiny nose lengths ahead. We'll be able to throw it in ahead. So the battle has stopped. Can Lewis now use this overtake to catch up to Strauss? We're going to have to wait and see. Lewis actually having to abandon the braking zone for that final chicane. Going to take to the safety runoff. Can't do that too often, or you will get penalized with drive-throughs if you're not yielding and slowing down position.
That's the thing, when you're fighting against someone for position, especially on this track, you have to be careful of your brake zones and their brake zones, because like if you make one slip up, you will go off track, but you also have to be very wary of the car in front of you with his racing line and brake markers, because it's just one of the things. You watching the car in front, and if you don't look at the right spot on his car at the right time, you both could end up off the track in the wall and then race over. So it's one thing you have to look out for.
I mean, Junior could have met one of those kind of fates. I mean, he's sitting down in 8th place at the moment after being in 2nd. So, I mean, maybe Rob in chat can give us a bit of insights as to what's happened out to Junior. But he's certainly had a little bit of a fall from grace. That would have promoted the likes of Kruger and King. Well, actually promoted everybody down to Junior's position now. So everybody will get themselves up a free position. But it does look like a little bit of damage done out to the front end of that Lamborghini. In the ATK Academy number 444, going to be at risk of getting caught out here by Skitter. Sean Skitter, one of the EKZ motorsport teams, sponsored by Black Ribbon Sims. They are on the hunt. The Ferrari here may be better against the damaged Lamborghini. We're going to have to wait and see, but certainly looking like he's closing that gap down. The last indicated split between them, just 0.6 of a second. And I think that when they go over the start-finish straight, that's going to be a little bit less as well. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on that. They should cross it in a little second. And it will just stay out at 0.6. He is going to close down, but maybe Junior adapting to some of that damage. That can also be a thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is some drivers that can adapt very well to the car they're driving with damage, but it can also deteriorate over time, so it's one thing to look out for. So
we were thinking it was going to be Jason Ishwood starting out in this number 584 Cayman, but it was JC Krobler that did start out, and he's actually pulled a nice little gap ahead of Versace at this point in time. So very good drive coming out from the 584. Just need to keep this up. They could find themselves up at the front end of the GT4 points for the second round here. And that'll be massive for them because they find themselves in second. So that'll be good enough to probably tie them up if Versace finishes behind them.
Yeah, definitely. I think at this moment, Versace will have to work his butt off the clash that came in, but I think he might have the strategy of wait for Krobler to go in the pits first before he makes a move, but we'll have to see. And it looks like King is having to do with Strauss, which is not very unusual. So
Oh, it's great to see the likes of Bernard King and Cornet Strauss on the same bit of racetrack together. The Rad Racers number 222 taking on the EKZ number 55, and Cornet in free practice, should I say, looked like he had some really good pace in this Mercedes. So at the moment, the front running Mercedes as it stands, Bassoon down in 19th place, would be the other manufacturer to add some points up to that. So as they come through some lap traffic, that'll be Stephen Koenig's KTM crossbow in the background of that shot. Bernard King going to be wanting to do everything to keep the likes of Strauss behind him. But Strauss certainly has found some pace after getting the tires and brakes up to temperature, and now will hamper the likes of King catching up to Kruger in that Ferrari. Also featured in shots, so everybody kind of an arm's length away from one another at certain parts, but it's these little interim battles that become so exciting. Strauss getting a very good exit out of the hairpin, but will not be able to quite catch up to the Lamborghini before they get to Spoon. It's the back stretch where you really want to plan a move, and it's all about this exit through Spoon. What can you do to carry it out? And Strauss going to run a little bit wide, struggles with a little bit of snapback oversteer, and that's or understeer, going to send him back off to the right side of the circuit. That's going to give King exactly what he needs to keep breathing calmly, get through the rest of this lap, and then worry about the attacks from that Mercedes at a later stage. This is the top end coming out from that Mercedes, looking like sitting in the slipstream behind the Lamborghini, going to play out. So Cornet will know that lap after lap. If he can get that good exit out of Spoon, he's going to be able to maybe go alongside before 130R, or keep it along good enough to have another look down on the defensive or on the attack down into curve 1. You see them just making their way around the GT4 cars, and that's what you have to do in the GT3s. You have to make your way around the GT4s. They're going to stick on their racing line, and in the faster class, it's up to you to pass them safely and not impact their race. Into the S's, it is going to start getting hectic. These two are definitely starting to roll the dice together and trying to see who can get a bit of a better read on the other.
Yeah, I think with these two, they can be on each other this whole for a few laps, but I think Strauss is looking quite agitated and wants to get past King. But I think King is learning a lap after lap where Strauss is going to make a move, so he's blocking that direction for Strauss. So, ooh, and King looked like he made a mistake, but
he did. He went a little bit too wide there, didn't he, out of the hairpin, and this is maybe where Strauss is going to be allowed to go side by side. It's not going to be the case, and he will give track position to King. So again, trying to line himself up for Spoon, trying to carry some exit speed out through there, the number 55. Not going to be the case again on this lap, and Cornet might be looking at that opportunity and thinking, was that my chance? With an hour and 9 minutes on the clock, there's certainly going to potentially be a couple more, especially with the way that these two are driving together. They certainly feel like they are in a good zone to keep out a little knife fight for us on the street. So hopefully we don't give them the commentator's curse and we see an end to either one of their drives. I love following battles, and talking about battles, I wanted to say Arno Fasaki is showing me that he's got a battle on his hands, but he's actually, I think, just ahead of one of the GT3s. So he's showing a bit weird on my timing sheet.
Well, I mean, I think the commentator's curse, as you said, comes into play most 9 times out of 10, but I think we're gonna have to see how that goes. But I think some of these GT4s look like they're gonna have GT3s on them over and over again. But as you said before, Van der Merwe is gonna have to deal with Fasaki, who is not gonna give up that easily. So I guess with that we're gonna have to see. But with Strauss and King, they definitely gonna be the ones to watch now. So
I mean, here's a good example. They're both approaching some of the lap traffic of the GT4 class in front of them. So they're going to be looking to obviously have their track position battle, but at the same time have a safe pass on this Aston Martin. He sticks nice and wide, allows them to come through 200R together. And again, nice little bit of gentlemanly driving coming out from both car classes, showing the respect that they need to have. And this really is the closest battle up at the front of the pack at the moment. As you can see, everybody else quite split out of one another. Van der Merwe will get past the likes of Visaki and Grobler down in the GT3, so he will get himself through. The GT4s will, again, eventually settle back down into where they need to be. They know that they're on circuit. They stick to their race line. They've got their work cut out. This is Ferreira and Mouton. They are on track, and they are close together as well. So it looks like Terence Ferreira is going to be on the defense from Mouton. So a little Kai racing battle. So I think some of the... Oh, there we go. Big mistake coming out from Ferreira. He wants to wide through Spoon. Like I said before, Spoon. Critical corner. It's got the weird sort of braking zone. You think you have to go slower through it than you need to be. Then suddenly you're going at that mid-corner speed. You don't have the aero downforce. Just catches so many people off. And 130R also going to force Ferreira to run wide. I have a couple of times been given some drive-through warnings for exceeding the exit there and not lifting before rejoining the circuit. So you've got to be careful. If you do gain a track advantage, you are going to get those warnings. You get 3 warnings and then a drive-through. You get a drive-through here, it's your race. You can write it off if you want to take home points and be happy with them, because you will be punished hard unless you are 2 to 3 seconds a lap quicker than everybody else. Then you can, build up a gap, get a drive-through, come back, make your way through. But for most of these drivers here, drive-through penalty here would ruin their races, and they need to just be careful that they don't use up too many of those track warning limits early on in the race.
yeah, given it with these track limits, especially with this top 10, or should I say top 5, that are currently at the standing, with the track limits and them fighting so close to one another, they're gonna probably lose it in some of the corners and then end up getting punished for it. So it looks like it might happen. So especially with the top 5 and the top 10 GT3s, it's...
Oh, look at Lewis. Look at Lewis. Lewis is not letting Clue have any breathing space whatsoever. No social distancing between the two of them. And he is certainly looking to take this 5th position off of Clue's hands. But for now, Ryan Lewis going to have to settle out to be a couple of car lengths behind. Didn't quite have the exit out through the final chicane. But it's not all lost. The follow car does have that little bit of aero advantage when they are in the slipstream. But on the same edge of that sword, the other side of the coin, is the fact that you have the dirty air and the dirty aero effect at play when you are close. And these mid-speed, pretty quick corners where you're kind of like just getting off the accelerator, turning in, getting back on again. Very limited use of the brakes. It can really upset your car being super close to a car in front. So for Lewis, he needs to get this done sooner rather than later. And he's certainly keeping the car in front of him. Very, very honest. I mean, at this point in time, it's a bit early to be setting up to try and find an overtake somewhere. Maybe into the hairpin. I take that back. He could have a look into the hairpin. We've seen the exit being compromised by a lot of people. Does he force Clue to go ultra defensive? It doesn't look like he's going to be able to get the drive done out there. Masterclass in defense coming out from Clue. Once again, we get to feature the name and say, whoa, this man, certainly a difficult driver to pass on track, but he does give fair opportunities, and he gives the amounts of space that is required for another driver if they are going to get alongside. But for now, 204 just struggling to even put himself in that position, and that's going to allow the 92 of Blanche to hang on to this. Not going to allow Lewis to run away, And to Blanche, going to just be sitting here in that Tierra Project number 92, smiling to himself, knowing that if these two have a contact, that's going to give him positions. And if the defense has to go ultra mad from Clue, that's going to slow both of those cars down. He can slingshot himself through. Just watch this space. If he can time that right, it's a very good space to be in, because Lewis just can't go anywhere at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're going 3 cars, 7, 8, and 9. It's, well, 5, 6, and 7. It's what the 2 in front are gonna make mistakes. There's no doubt about that. Because as time progresses, they get more and more tired. Especially if there's no driver swap, they are gonna be extremely tired. So their race lines won't be as perfect. But I mean, you never know. These two might probably not make a mistake, but you never know. And also, Junior McCall dropping all the way down to 14th after going in the pits very early, which I think, oh, you see there, it's already Lewis and Clue already made the mistake.
This is what we are saying. So now the mistake comes out. Lewis, we're gonna get an action-packed replay, jumping back from the exit out from the S's, and Degner 1 and 2. Not a place that you can really make or make a maneuver up, and they've caught up to that BMW in front. Do we even get a it was not the inside line that Lewis wanted to have, because he's been caught up with Clue, and both of them are going to be relegated down the field order. Will be interesting to see if any stewarding inquiries get logged from either of the drivers for that, and what happens from the outcome of it. But we're not stewards. We're not here to make the calls. I just know that Degner 1 and 2 always a dangerous place. I apologize. I'm getting the hiccups. So if you have to take over from me, Carl, it's because I've had a hiccup attack. But for now, they seem to be catching me off guard
don't
a
worry.
little bit.
I'll scare them away for you. Don't worry about that.
Okay, no, it seems to be okay. It just seems that they want to rear their head at the most inconvenient time. But right now, on board, Lewis going to pull out of the slip. Is he going to go alongside into curve 1? He will be alongside before the turn in for the apex, and will get past Clue eventually a lap later and a couple of positions down. Both of them won't be impressed with where they find themselves after that. And they now need to work up towards catching to Blance and Skitter, who were the biggest winners out of that whole situation. So the EKZ Ferrari is going to get himself up into that 6th position spot. And things looking good in the top 10 here for EKZ. They've got Strauss and Skitter, or the cars piloted currently by Strauss and Skitter, the number 55 and the 2. ATK Academy, they've got McCall up there. Then, of course, who else is here? The Kaike Racing teams. They've got Ferreira and Delport. They're almost in the top 10. And then down in the GT4s, is Seabolt still in this? So, looks like we've got Seabolt still racing out for RSP. But the front 2 drivers, Krobler and Visaki, for Retro Esports, doing a good job in the GT4s to secure the points.
Yeah, it's actually very strange, because with these GT4s and GT3 mixed class races, a lot of these drivers are used to GT3s, and then the others, on the other hand, are used to GT4s. So they have to be compassionate, if I can put it that way, with the car they're using, because they might make a mistake and then they can be in a GT3 and then end up killing a GT4 that's behind them.
Yeah, driver competence is everything, right? I mean, you have to be a master of both classes to be able to dive in between GT3s and GT4s. And a lot of the GT4 guys that are driving GT4s now main the GT3s. So, like you said, you do have to have the driver competence to come out and be able to have a good, clean battle out on circuit and know where to put yourself at the right time. So, for some of these drivers, the driver swaps have taken place, or the mandatory stop that they wanted to plan has gone down, or the unmandatory stop that they wanted to plan has gone down. Either way, racing is racing. We've seen some stops go down. We've dipped down below our hour remaining mark, so 57 minutes left on the clock. The first 25 or so minutes, 28, 29 minutes, almost 30 minutes, have absolutely flown by. And looking at the timing sheets, let's just show you guys where everybody stands. As you can see, Morgan up towards the front. Number 23, piloted by Kruger, in second place at the moment. Hugo going to take over the car in a little bit. King in third. Strauss and Harding into fourth place. And to Blanche and Kirstein round out that top 5. And down in the GT4s, it's Krabbe and Isherwood holding down the top of the Pops position. And then, of course, Vasaki in second place. As we see a pass in the background being done between the GT3s and the GT4s. Will be...
You know what's also very surprising, George, is with that sheet, how many of the GT3s have driver swaps, but the GT4 guys are actually going balls to the wall and not just doing a single stint. So it's very surprising.
What do you mean by that, Carl?
Like, what I mean is, like, most of the GT3s, like, with, I think it's to Blanche and then someone else, like, they, after a certain time, they swapping. Like, you see it with Bruno Kruger and Hugo, they swap after a certain period. But with the GT4s, some of them haven't got second drivers. And I mean, that's going to affect them big time, especially with an hour and 25-minute race. So...
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying a little bit more on the fatigue side, not being able to share out the car?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a... I understand that point. I think in the nature of the ACC racing that we've been doing with a lot of these gents out here, this race length, I mean... They're used to driving 80-minute races solo in the GT3s. The GT4 races, we had a bit of a sprint-based series, but previously they'd driven them for pretty long stints. So I feel that fatigue is not going to be a good enough excuse for these drivers not to bring their absolute A game. So, I mean, I understand the concept behind it, but I think maybe in a 6-hour race or a 3-hour race, a solo stint doing 3 hours is insane. I think an 85-minuter behind a GT4, I think these guys, I mean, there's a reason they drive and we commentate, right? I mean, they're the professionals. We're just here to kind of add a little bit of fluff to the story where we can. But these guys have been doing this time in, time out. And I think for them, it's a decent stint. I got a lot of flack from people with the term endurance series, right? So they said to me, this is not an endurance series, but it's a mini mixed enduro, and the enduro part is more to do with the fact that we simulate the driver swap. So if you are racing an endurance race, you guys will know that you have to do driver swaps, and to do that there's a whole process in the, setting the correct driver, driving into the pit box, handing the controls over and letting someone drive away. So this series, because it's a little bit of a filler for the rest of the season, we had planned it right at the start to end early and have a team-based endurance thing, is to allow people a chance to do driver swaps. Because when we come into the likes of our Spa 6-hour medal state event on the 6th of December, drivers will have to do those driver swaps. So it's such a good time for them to be able to practice these things now and then be ready for them when we get to the 6-hour, and then we can call it an endurance. 6 hours of racing at Spa, that's going to be nuts. This still, to me, it gives me a sprinty vibe, but because we've got so many different cars on the grid, the multi-class, the mandatory stops, I completely understand the naming convention.
Well, when it comes to endurance racing, fatigue plays a very big part, especially if you're doing a 6 hour and you only have 2 drivers for that 6 hours, and you can't get a hold of your other driver, then fatigue will play a very big part. But I think for 85-minute fatigue with some drivers, it might play a part because some of the drivers might not be using actual, like, I know it kind of sounds cheesy, but like sim rig, so they might also be playing. Fatigue might have an effect on them more because of their sitting positions, but you never know.
I do like the fact that you have a good counter argument to my arguments, and I think that one is entirely true. People come from different race situations, and they find themselves racing in different ways, and perhaps, like you said, that seating position for some not going to be as ideal as it is for others, and they struggle a little bit with that. So we're gonna have to wait and see if those are going to be the circumstances out here. But it does not look to be affecting the likes of Skitter at the moment. And Sean Skitter, I mean, he's come over from the PlayStation side of things. A lot of the EKZ Motorsports community comes over from the PlayStation and console side of life. They did the GT Sport things. So I think it's very cool to permanently see these teams that were dominant in GT Sport, for example, coming over and then racing in a platform that I consider to be a more competitive field with drivers that are, there's more people, there's more access. I don't know. I don't want to fight. I don't want to have a GT Sport versus ATC fight ever, but I think it's cool that the PlayStation guys have kind of realized that, on the PC side of sim racing, there's quite a lot of cool things happening, and they've then put their toes into the water, and a couple of races in, they were racing in the Pro Tier and doing a very good job at it. So for the number 2 at the moment, in the top 10 by a decent margin, almost into the top 5, they can catch up to Blanche. Yeah, it is 3.6 seconds up the road from them. It'll be a very good finish for them. But I love encouraging people to come over from all the different race communities and getting them all under one banner and one place.
Well, I think when it comes to the console and PC war, as you said, like most of them have come over from console, but I think in my mind, I don't know about yours, but a PC will always rule over a console, especially when it comes to gaming, especially sim gaming.
You fight with a very dangerous community when you start to make comparisons like that. I stay away from PC versus console things. I mean, you are right. I always do rate the PC side has a better expansion side to how much you can really do on it. You're not really limited to titles. You've got a lot of the ability to do the production side and the streams and the feeds, and they put a lot of effort into broadcasting tools on this side. So yeah, I don't want to do a PC versus console battle, but I like the fact that I haven't gone over to GT Sports, but the GT Sport guys have come over to ACC to race with us here. So I think they're the better people with being able to, okay, cool, I can come over and race on that. If I'm fast here, I can learn to be fast there, and they've done exactly that. So more power to those people for coming out and fighting on a platform that they maybe not the most experienced on.
It's definitely, I mean, for a lot of people, especially with sim racing, like when it comes to let's say Forza, it's not an excellent game for PC as it is console. It's better fit for console, but when it comes to sim racing games, PC will always be one step ahead, but that's just what I think. So, I mean, I'm just one person, but I mean, that's my decision I'm making.
You're
So
entirely allowed. You're entirely allowed to have your opinions on it, and I completely wouldn't disagree in the sentiments that you're having. Look at Krayling. He's in the pits with a drive-through penalty, so the number 16 down towards the bottom of the timing sheet. Not going to be smiling too much. Up towards the front, Morgan McCall still leads off from the likes of Brandon Kruger. Brandon Kruger is being pressured up by the likes of Bernard King. Bernard King in that 222, starting to close down now, and he's bringing Strauss with him. So up towards the top 5, it really is a battle. They're getting themselves through back markers all the time, and they're trying to see where they can find themselves a little bit. Look at this. GT4s for days all around the circuit. That's going to allow Kruger to get a little further ahead of King, as King has to settle down. Look at Cornet Strauss. Cornet Strauss, he's seen this moment. He knows that the GT4s are there. He's aware that King has been slowed down whilst trying to get through that, and both of them are going to peel into the pits together to serve their driver swaps. Oh, a little touch coming down there, and that is so unfortunate from them, as Strauss does have a contact coming down. I mean, it's not going to be far enough back to get the entire replay there.
But I think also that's going to cause a drive-through for Strauss. I mean, you can clearly see, I mean, even though you can't go back, but you can clearly see that Strauss wanted to get past Bernard King first, so he can get out quicker and make that position. But doing that has just cost him big time.
It has cost him big time. I don't think he's going to get a drive-through in the race, luckily for them, but the stewards after the race will possibly look into that if it's submitted up by King. But certainly a little bit of eagerness coming out from the EKZ driver as he came into the pits, and not gonna shift any blame. And the driver behind is responsible for making sure that there's no contact, but at the same time can also understand that they're under pressure and they're trying to make up time, and you want to get onto the pit limiter as late as possible so that you can enter the pits without losing time. You see the car in front of you, and unfortunately hasn't gone the right way. But when they come out of the pits and they hand over their cars, we'll have to see. Oh, so it was King. It was Bernard King, not Kruger. It was King that got touched up, and he is going to go into the pits, and it will be Harding to take to the wheel of the EKZ Yeet Mercedes. So post race exit, it will be the same as the positions that they were in. So they didn't gain anything. They have come back out behind. I mean, yeah. I think the stewards are going to be quite strict on that, to be honest. If we look into it, if it does get logged up, they'll still look into that and go, you made a contact, spun a car around in the pits. But they also may consider the fact that once everything was served out, they exited the pits in the same way that they'd come in, and there was no time gained or lost. Both of them lost equal time. You have no idea how they're going to look into that. Kirstein and Kutsia, are they on track at the moment for position? No, it's Kirstein that is just getting passed out. That's going to be Morgan, I believe. Will be indeed. So Morgan, our leader, gets on past some of the back markers. And this number 19 has yet to go in to serve that mandatory stop just yet. So it still needs to go in and serve up that stop. Skitter and Lewis, the number 2 Ferrari and the 204 Audi, they peel into the pits off screen. So the likes of King and Harding, where do they come out of all of this? When those guys get out of the pits, they should still be stationary when Harding and King come down here. So they're going to shift those positions back up again.
Definitely. But also when it comes down to it, Morgan McCall, I mean, he's just passed the Aston Martin Verstappen. And I mean, how many other guys has he passed? So by the time he swings it into the pit, he won't have to worry about his position. And
Morgan has pretty much passed everybody up until 8th place at this point. So yeah, he's flying out there at the moment.
And also Gary Richardson has just got to drive through it. So I mean, that's not gonna help him either, but it's just one of those unfortunate events that happens. So
I mean, that's potentially even just speeding in the pits that you get that, not necessarily always a track warnings that you've accumulated up. So both of those situations, getting a DT next to your name sucks. Doesn't matter what the actual reason was that you got it. You got to serve it out. You got 3 laps to do it or you get disqualified. And it's always one of those situations as a driver, you look at that and you go, why has that happened to me? And it's part of racing. It happens up there. Oh, there was definitely a car facing the wrong direction up there. Is that Giammutin? I think it is the number 13. It is. He's parked on. He's beached it.
He's
gonna. Oh, he got beached up on the curb, and he's had to reverse it out of there to get it out, and he's had to wait for a lot of drivers to pass him before he's rejoined the circuit safely. So he's going to drop down. And it's going to be further than that because he has not gone in to serve his pit stop. So when he goes in, he's going to lose out positions even more. And his M6 is looking a little bit like he bought it at a bargain bin. And not really sure of where that collision would have taken place. But like you can see, the front of that bodywork not quite aligning like it did when it left the factory.
Definitely not. I mean, he must have done something not terrible, but quite disturbing to end up with damage like that, especially on that hairpin to beat that car, especially around that hairpin with the way he was facing, where you can't see no cars coming from your right hand side. So he obviously did something drastically wrong.
And he will be sitting and reflecting back at his visit to the beached up hairpin. And he will not be wanting to repeat that again. Looking at the timing sheets, it looks like William Wentworth in that McLaren. He's got the likes of JC Krobler behind him. This is a situation that you've talked about before, you know, when GT4s and GT3s are caught up together, and that's going to be Junior McCall behind both of them. So Junior coming to get or to lap the traffic in front. The 858 must concede that position over to the Lambo when it is convenient to just lift up. Doesn't have to jump out of the way to blue flags, but as soon as he is in a position where he might be impacting the race pace of one of the race leaders, he is going to have to just ease off and let them through. Probably will just wait for a better exit coming out from Morgan, out from Spoon, and just let him get it done on the back stretch. Does run wide and let Junior come through. And JC Krobler in that GT4 not going to be able to hold on to the power of the GT3. He would have wanted to. I can certainly guarantee you that JC would have wanted to race against William in a slower car class if he could, but William Wentworth will say nope rope and check himself out and put the 858 Kai K Racing McLaren 720S up a little bit closer to catching the likes of Cooper and Sienerin. He's got a lot of seconds to catch up to Cooper, so maybe not really on the cards for them, but they're just going to be accepting that maybe the race didn't go the way that they wanted. There's potential up in front of them, and I said that before, but Wentworth is actually only 19 seconds behind Sienerin, so timing sheets have updated, but the potential is still there. Sienerin is behind Kutzer, and then Ottens. A bunch of drivers just sort of in a space where They have a big amount of time to make up delta, so their teammates will be saying, okay, focus up, 37 minutes to go, time to the driver in front, X amount of seconds, let's get this work done, let's try and close that down where we can. And if you are driving by yourself, then you're telling it to yourself. You're looking at the timing sheets and saying, okay, cool, next car in front of me is so far. Ooh, is that King getting closer to the back of Hugo here? It is Hugo. He's under big pressure here. Let's go and face some rear wing action from the number 23 Ferrari. They make their way down into 130R. Hugo now behind the wheel of the number 23. Good job from his teammate to put it up into this position. Now Batis Hugo will not be wanting to lose out on that time and hard work that his teammate has put in. But look at that charge from King. King going to go on the attack immediately. I don't think Hugo even wants to try and fight against this. He knows that King is going to be faster than him. So not wasting time to maybe, keep ahead of Harding behind him. Not a bad call either. But either way, King gets through. Hugo's number 23 will go down to 3rd place. And Harding in 4th place, separated by some lap traffic between them. But certainly will be looking to catch up to Hugo. Let's just see, 205.9, the lap time that came out from Bertus. He's just getting himself back up to pace with the car. I don't think he had too much practice, actually. Of course, he runs all of this Raceface League admin behind the scenes. He does, his own businesses as well. But always so cool to see him coming out and driving where he can. But I don't think this is one of the circuits that he's been able to get a lot of race practice on. You know what that means, Kyle? That means that as the race progresses, you get progressively faster because you use the race as your practice time. So if you are, decent at the start of the stints, then you should be even more decent by the end of it. So if you complete rubbish at the start, then hopefully less rubbish by the end. But as we talk about it, Harding is starting to set his sights, get very excited to get closer up towards him.
Definitely. I think Bertus, he's got 34 minutes to go. He's gonna get faster and faster, but his other guys behind him might be faster than him, but with the skill set that Bertus has, he might be able to fend them off.
Well, I think it's going to be so hard. He's got these young guns that have been trying to prove themselves in the sim racing world. BRS, EKZ, Yeet coming up behind. They want this. They want 3rd place. They need this for themselves. And I think that he is going to have everything on his plate to have to defend against it. He is experienced, and will that experience pull the ranking over the number 55? We'll have to wait and see. But for now, it is certainly starting to brew up to be a great battle. And behind them, they've got that team Tryhard. It's not the team Tryhard. It's Kutz's. It's Kutz's number 176. I called it the TTHR car last time, and it's absolutely not. So I got that wrong. But Kutz is not in this for a battle for position. So it's kind of pointless to try and track along with him. Zillan Harding, of course, the car that we want to follow at the moment. He's got to try and look for that chink in the armor on the outside. Bert's going to go to get past the 777. Seabolt going to be aware of this. Oh, big mistake coming out from Bertus as they come into the hairpin. He's gone early onto the inside line, but it's worked out great for him. He's actually managed to get a better apex out compared to the EKZ number 55. And Batis Hugo survives another attack. He's going to do this for 33 minutes. I take back my comments about fatigue. They will both be fatigued.
Oh, definitely. Especially with these two battling. Fatigue will be a very big step. But also, like I said, fatigue, it may hinder some people. But when it comes to Bertus, he has the experience of a Harding. So I think he knows how to control fatigue. But you can see Harding trying to make a move very, like, in one of those dangerous spots, especially with the last chicane, because you don't want to make a move on the last chicane and then get it wrong. But also, he's making a move on the outside.
Here he
So
goes, Carl. Here he goes. Is he on the outside for curve 1? He is. Does he outbrake himself? He doesn't. And I think that's where Harding has got it done. We did say the straights are the places to have a little look-see. Curve 1 and 2. Explore the braking zones. And the black ribbon simulations. EKZ Yeet Mercedes gets themselves up into 3rd place in the mixed mini enduro. 31 minutes on the clock for them. They're going to have to defend out this position. Still going to switch out drivers, I'm sure, as well. Or they might actually have already done their only driver swap, because Zillen is at the wheel. So they wouldn't be making another swap after this. They'd just be going for one. So right now, as it stands...
Which GT4 is he? Well...
That's Vasaki that he's passing there.
I think Vasaki is probably... He's not liking this at all, especially when he has 2 more GT3 cars behind him. But I think the guys in the GT4s must be used to a burnout, because you can't put a GT3 and a GT4 together. So, I mean, that's the class they picked. They have to stick to it as well, so...
Yeah, you know, you accept it as a GT4 driver. You're off the pace of a GT3 because your car's slower. It's more reminiscent of the standard consumer level cars. There's less aero. They really have a big disadvantage to the GT3. So to them, they're just hoping that the racecraft element that their big GT3 brothers bring to the tables is decent, because the GT4s are sticking to their race line. You don't see them moving anywhere off the line. The GT3s make the passes. The GT4s just have to stick to their lines, and then that's the racing etiquette for them. So I don't think they mind having GT3 cars battling around, as long as the racecraft is up to a standard that is decent, because you don't want to be in that GT4 class and be being pushed around and bullied by GT3 drivers because they're not respecting what the race rules are. They think, this GT4 needs to get out the way from me. No, that's not how the GT4s work. The GT4's got to stick on their racing line, and your faster big boy GT3 needs to make the moves.
Also, if you have a look at down the line with the leading GT4 with JC Hobler, he hasn't pitted yet, so if he or
say that again.
Is JT Hobler waiting for something or what? Because he has not pitted yet as leading the GT4s in that Cayman. So what is his plan?
I mean, he's obviously trying to go for a little bit of a longer stint out there, trying to go for a bit of an overcut before they switch up. Vasaki, obviously being a solo driver, he's already gone in, done his mandatory stop and swap. So for Krabler now, they just want to try and get that car further and further away from the likes of Vasaki. So when they do peel into the pits eventually, they've got a little bit of a buffer before they need to be under attack. We saw Vasaki at times was putting some decent pressure onto Krabler, but near maybe the 10 lap mark, it felt like Krabler had definitely got himself a fair bit of breathing room. So it will be interesting to see how that one plays out. They've still got 25 minutes to serve up that pit stop, and that will be when the pit window closes down. Guys, thank you for joining us here at Raceface.Pro. This is the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please leave a little subscribe out there. Junior going to go into the pits. I'm not quite sure what Junior's gone into the pits for, but he will he will peel in. Thank you again to our sponsors, Black Ribbon Simulations and Resource Complete, for giving us the opportunity to have them on board and have them as partners for our streams. So massive thanks to them, and a big shout out to you guys, our viewers, for joining up and enjoying and entertaining our racing. Thank you for all the likes and shares that you guys leave. Thank you for all the comments that you put into the YouTube channels. Thanks for the comments on the videos when you guys have finished racing. It's all very much appreciated. And then lastly, big thank you to Kyle for making his debut in the comms box and joining me this evening for this mixed multi-class mini enduro. I hope that you're having fun here, Kyle.
I'm having an absolute blast. I mean, it's a blast because you, with the RCR and everything, it's nice to eventually actually be in the box, but to also, see what happens firsthand, and to experience it like this, it's definitely a game changer.
Oh, it's so awesome. I mean, like I said at the very beginning, guys, if you are new to hearing our second new co-caster in the box, Kyle has been a Raceface fan for as long as I can remember, us starting with the new seasons. As soon as he heard about us, he was here, and he's been a big support for a lot of the international commentaries that I've done too. So to have him here and be able to give him this experience, and hopefully have him back in the future as well. And for me, it's about growing things, and not everybody wants to just do the sim racing thing. Not everybody has the opportunity to do the sim racing thing, but commentating and being able to add and contribute to some extent always feels like I'm giving back. And for me, it's an absolute honor to have you here, dude. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, it's good to have your support. You permanently send good messages and constructive messages to people, and for a lot of people here, they don't know who you are or what you do. So for them, hopefully they can start to understand that there's a space that you can fit into. And if the commentary is something that excites you and you want to join me again, the opportunity is always here. And I know for you, being able to work on talking and engaging with people is a very positive thing. So I love having you here.
Thank you very much, George. It means a hell of a lot. But I think you'll look forward to we should look forward to next week as well, because I'll definitely be joining you again. So
absolutely great news to have, Carl, because we also have a little battle on our hands. Hugo and Lewis this time round. Looks like the number 23 Ferrari, after all the hard work his teammates put in, Bertus unfortunately not able to have the same pace levels that were required, and they're going to find themselves losing a couple of positions to some pretty quick drivers. I don't think Bertus is going to be disappointed with it, knowing Bertus, because for him, he doesn't get a lot of time to practice, like I said, and you got to call a spade a spade. When you're up practicing and driving up against drivers that are putting many hours into a sim, it's very hard to find those very small nuances that are required to get those top times. But for now, if they round out themselves within the top 10 by the checkered flag, I think they're going to be pretty chuffed with that. And they've then got Kirsteins, number 92 Aston Martin. Down the road from them, they've also got the BWR Hannes van Veek Lexus, number 27, coming down the road from them. I mean, the time gaps are quite big, 14-15 seconds, but put this car into a wall and 14 seconds becomes the very minimum gap that you lose out before you get yourself back onto the circuit. So for 23 minutes, you've got to have yourself deadly focused and keeping your eye towards the front of the order. Carl, we're going to take a 5 minutes on-board lap with one of the cars here. Who do you want to take a little immersive break with?
You should go with a GT4.
A GT4? Okay.
It would have to be Steven Koenig, because ever since I started watching Raceface, he's been there to help me, and he was to push me and everything to where I am now. So I think it would have to be Steven.
Okay, so Stephen gonna get our little 2 minutes of immersive break on the stream. So I'm gonna jump on board with him. Carl, you can use this 2 minutes to go and quickly grab a break. The last 20 minutes is coming up here. So let me crank up the sounds of the GT4 here. And we will be back with you guys when we've got 20 minutes left on the clock. Okay, guys, we are back with you once again. We were taking a little onboard there with Stephen Koenig, giving you a bit of an experience with the GT4s, so you can kind of get an understanding. Of course, Stephen sitting down towards the bottom end of the pack, but at the same time gives you a good understanding of what these guys have to deal with when it comes to lapped traffic. I'm hoping that Kyle is back and ready to join me when he is back as well. Kyle, you here?
Yes, I am.
Yes, we synced that up perfectly. So we're back in the box again for the closing 20 minutes, 18 minutes 42 on the clock. A drive-through penalty comes the way of the number 7 Aston Martin. The KK Racing team going to be handed that one, and that is going to sting. They're in 9th place in the top 10. That is going to drop them down. I see that Isherwood is in the car for the number 584 Retro GT4 team. So that means that JC Krobler is out of the vehicle, and you see him in our YouTube chat at the moment. So good drive coming out from JC. I think we sung a lot of praises about the good stint that he pulled out. So now it's going to be up to Isherwood to now take it home for them in the 584. He's got 15.5 seconds gap to Versace behind him, and 17 minutes to go. So he cannot lose a second a lap to Versace. That's going to be the important factor here. And let me just give you a little bit of an insight into their last lap times. A 13.7 is what Mr. Jason Isherwood did, and a 2:13.7 and a 2:12.4 for Versace. So that second gap that Versace needs to catch up to Isherwood per lap, he's nailed on the last one. So he's just going to keep an eye out on that and see how much closer he can get in to maybe clinch the victory in the GT4s. Potentially could. I mean, Versace has done less disgusting things in the past. So with 17 minutes on the clock, it's going to be interesting to see where he puts his KTM crossbow by the time that checkered flag waves.
It's going to be very tight though between Versace and Isherwood. So yeah, but I mean, with the 15.5 second gap and with 16.5 minutes to go, anything can happen. Isherwood, I'm not going to do commentators curse, but something could happen because a lot of the drivers might be feeling it, but I'm not going to jinx it.
I mean, I did terrible maths in my calculation with their gap and the minutes remaining, because obviously it's per lap time, and the lap times that they're doing are 2 minutes, and in 16 minutes it's like 8 laps or so. So you need way more than what I was calculating. But Versace is definitely finding. I mean, he was 3 seconds faster than Isherwood on their last lap. So those kind of lap times per lap, that is the gap that Versace is needing to find the margin. You see him on the edges of traction. So I think that Arno still potentially could be in this. You see him coming up through to the hairpin now, as is the car that he's trying to rival down is just going up towards Spoon at the moment. So Versace, this gap feels like a long time in racing, but if those lap times drop from Versace and they increase for Isherwood, this last 15 minutes could be an absolute shootout between the two of them.
It definitely could be, but also, like, while you were busy talking, Ferreira in the number 9 spot, he got a drive-through, so I'm not sure what happened there, but he's already done the drive-through. But I mean, the curse might be upon the top 10. So
yeah, Ferreira's drive-through not going to be good for them, and is going to put them a fair way then behind Gambon, who's taken over from Skitten EKZ Ferrari. And for them, it's good when drivers are getting drive-through penalties. They want to get as many points as they can. But looking at gaps on circuit, looks like Kutsa, he's got the likes of Ottens putting some pressure on from behind him. And they do have a little bit of car between them at this stage, but that changes up 1 lap later. And when you've dispatched of the car that is not meant to be in that place, that is ahead of you for position, trying to get past you. You can see the blue flags are waving as the guys come through here, just indicating that people are out of position, and that you need to be cautious, be aware that you're being caught out. So Kutsa now needs to just keep it himself very cool, calm, and collected. Ottens is such a quick driver in that number 64 Lexus. You see him getting past the back marker, and he will then be free to chase down this 176 of Ruan Kutsa. And the last 10 minutes of this are going to be absolutely insane. I'm telling you, it always gets like this. It's exciting, and then it just gets more exciting towards the end. Hugo still holds on to his 5th place. Let's see what Isherwood and Versace did on their last laps. Oh, 3/10 quicker is Versace. That's not going to be enough to catch up. And just look at this. This is just absolute chaos all across the field. Hugo at the moment, a little bit of a cork in the bottle, as it will allow the likes of Ottens to just get himself through and past Kutzer. So before they even get into the S's, Ryan Ottens is already dispatched there, and it looks like it will be the catch up to Ferreira, which is 12 seconds for him. So that's possibly unachievable at this stage of the race to get into the top 10. But that top 10, someone in the top 10, drive-through penalty. You saw what happened to Ferreira already. I mean, he did get the drive-through penalty. If he exceeds track limits, he might be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, these track limits can affect your race big time, especially with the closing 10 minutes. It can be very hectic because you want to gain as many positions or time as possible. So you pushing that car more and more every lap is gonna force you to make a mistake. But it looks like Ottens, I mean, he is gonna get around Bottas, but I mean, that Lexus is just one hell of a beast when it comes to straight line speed.
I mean, it is going to be that drag out, and those track conditions didn't change up. We didn't see rain coming down. A little bit of cloud cover rolls in, and I think that the very, very early comments that we had with the weather maybe being something that played into effect didn't really come out to, I think, benefit some of the cars that are better in the wet. I think the Lexus, for one, has always been a dominant beast when it starts to rain. I think the Astons also shine out in the wet a little bit more, but the likes of the Lamborghinis then benefiting quite heavily. I haven't really seen the Lambos deal with the wet at Suzuka, so we wouldn't be able to 100% say that they wouldn't be as dominant as they're sitting now. But in all race conditions, they are favorable cars, favorable drivers, and in this race it hasn't had to factor in a dry race coming down and having to put your best foot forward, as we are 30 seconds away from the final 10 minutes of this second round at Suzuka, the mini mixed endurance season 1, brought to you by Black Ribbon Simulations and Resource Complete, and of course streamed over to the Raceface.Pro YouTube channel, all on the back end of the Raceface.Pro website. If you guys haven't checked it out, www.raceface.pro. And if you haven't joined up with the Raceface Discord, that's the place to be if you want to get involved. All of the leagues are open for the entire duration of the league. You just lose out on a couple of points that you could have got, but there's nothing that prevents you from being able to get in. So if you don't have the ability to race during the start of the season, you might be able to join midway. I always urge guys to get involved. I feel like Raceface is growing to be one of the biggest leagues that we've got going. I mean, I know that there's big leagues around, and definitely not taking away from what other people do, but certainly starting to attract a massive field of drivers and starting to get them all under one roof, all being able to prove who's the best on this specific platform, which is Assetto Corsa Competizione. And if you haven't got it and got involved with the racing in general, I mean, you can come over to us on Monday Night Racing's side, come and join the friendly casual environments, learn to sim race before you throw yourselves into a league. And then once you feel comfortable there, sign up Wednesdays and Thursdays for Raceface. We try and get as many drivers over to the international side with the Race Club International stuff that I'm involved in. So for me, big passionate fan of local South African sim racing. I love the community. I love our drivers. I love the fact that we've got so many great fans as well that support us and join us. They share the streams. They get their families involved. So a massive shout out to everybody who puts a foot forward in making this scene great. Myself, George Smith, I just want to thank you all, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm passionate about, which is broadcasting and bringing the action. Of course, we do have Carl in the box here today, his debut commentary for Raceface. He's been building up the confidence and the courage to finally step in, and he's been sitting in a little bit of a mentorship from myself. We've been showing him the ropes over for the local comms that we've done and the internationals. So Carl, once again, thank you for joining me. 8 minutes to go, your GT4 class, looking exciting. Isherwood and Visaki in 16th and 17th overall, but keeping it honest between them, because in the GT3s it's definitely not a close race between Morgan and Bernard King.
Definitely not. But I mean, like the GT4s, like when it comes down to Isherwood and Visaki and the GT4s, they are basically throughout this whole track, they have their foot flat down. So they are pushing those cars as fast as they can go.
I mean, again, it's one of those situations. Both the 584 and 194 GT4s are ahead of two GT3 cars. So Malortor's 878 and Gaber's number 69 GT3s, the two Ferraris, separate the GT4 pack, because Grayling, Seabolt, Richardson, Samuel are all behind them. And then, of course, those guys are all ahead of the GT3 of Hildebrandt. So a lot of good pace coming out from these guys in the GT4s. You said it right at the beginning. In the right hands, it can be a beast of a machine. And, you know, these guys just showing it, being ahead or on the same lap at this stage ahead of some of the drivers in GT3s. I mean, that is a massive accomplishment.
Yes, it most definitely is. But also, when it comes down to it, like, also with doing the car setups is also a major factor, especially with GT4s and
the GT4s have less setup work. The GT3s are the finicky ones. The GT4s, that is the, to me, the definition of more driver skill class, because you don't have the amount of fiddling that you can do on the GT3s. You don't have as much to adjust. So to me, the GT4s, those are pure driver skill cars, and guys that are getting what they can out of those are not they're not mastering setup work. I mean, that's skill. That's skill that these guys are bringing.
Well, that skill is definitely showing if Isherwood and Visaki can keep those GT4s ahead of two GT3 cars. So it definitely comes down to skill now.
I mean, we can also factor in that the GT3s that they are ahead of may have not had the best races. They might have been caught up, had to go into the pits. It's all stuff that doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, when you cross the line, where you finish is where you finish, and you don't look back and say, well, those cars just had excellent positions that you've gained are positions that you've gained. So a great drive coming out from those two GT4s, and a shout out to the whole GT4 field. We know that they are limited and far between, but we love them, and we permanently try and encourage more GT4s to come on. But Morgan McCall here, this is the driver that hasn't had much screen time, and that's because of his dominating drive up at the front. This time round, his younger brother Junior not going to be able to match him out. We saw Junior driving into the pits and having a retirement. I believe it was 9 laps or so ago, lap 26 I see on the score sheet there. So this time round, Morgan going to have an absolutely incredible round. It's going to be a good one for King as well if he gets this. He finished 9th last week in class, so for him, getting up towards the front is going to be massive. And then, of course, Harding and the likes of Strauss, they've done so well in their car. They definitely have showed that they've put in some time and effort into getting some practice sessions down, and being in 3rd at the moment, looking to get themselves onto their podium here at Raceface in the Mixed Mini Enduro. I'm excited for them. I mean, Black Ribbon Simulations, they sponsor our stream. They've got some cool things being announced on their websites and their social medias. But to have their team car doing well as well, it's all good. It was like when Team Tryhard got sponsored up by Resource Complete. They also started, I don't want to say pulling their socks up, but putting some good results on the table. And if you've got a big sponsor behind you, getting the results is what you want to have. So for them, it's going to be a massive, little flexing right, and being able to say, we are finding our rhythm, finding our groove. And with the closing couple of minutes coming down, it's looking very good for them to get up there. Brian Lewis into 4th. Hugo, he's also just had a good defensive drive, done what he needed to do. and looking up to take home a 5th place here. And for them, again, big smiles all around for teams that don't normally score massive points, and having faster and slower drivers paired up together. That's what it's all about, you know. I think, you know, going forward, maybe we can do a pros and AMs only team-based event where you have to pick someone from a lower skill level, you know, so maybe pros have to pick with AMs or AM gold. Either way, I think, you know, that could add for a little bit of fun. So the pit window will close up, means that anyone who hasn't served a pit stop will get disqualified post-race. But it looks like, just looking down the timing sheets, everybody has done all of their mandatory requirements, and it's just about getting it to the line now, hoping that your fuel is set correctly and you don't run out before the line.
That is also another factor with these last few minutes, because a lot of the drivers, even though they try and be consistent, they might be getting more fuel per lap usage than what they normally do, so their fuel is going further and further down. So that could be a big factor with the last few minutes. But also, like, if you go down the order, I think I saw someone that never did a pit stop requirement, but I could be wrong about that.
It does look like everybody here has gone over and done their mandatory requirements for now. On-track battles for position. Is this Ferreira and Ottens? It is for the race down for the top, or bettering your top 10. Ferreira in 9th. Ottens has caught up to him. We did say that was potentially going to be the case. Ferreira going to go be very wide, and this is going to be the entry for Ottens. There it goes. Entry into a better position for the Lexus, and the number 64 with ease and steeze comes through out of curve 2 to take an extra points paying position off of Ferreira's hands. The KKR drivers will battle it out together. Is this Sienerin and Girito Monteiro? It looks like they are coming down towards the line. They're going to be... Oh no! The contact has come in. He turned in too early. The number 86 has come into contact, and looks like the Audi is going to drive off relatively unfazed by that. But it will send Girito a little bit down the order. The LNR number 86 going to be... Oh, he's got Isherwood in the GT4 and Malort in the GT3 18 seconds down. So I don't think it's going to be too impactful for him. But it is the final lap for our race leader, Morgan McCall. And as I look at the timing sheet, it does not look like there are too many other battles that are going to change up for position. Just keep an eye on those Delta splits. We'll have to have a look. But I think that Ottens getting past Ferreira was possibly the last one that we had to just keep an eye on before we saw that checkered flag. And out through the hairpin for the final time goes the number 19 as he makes his way towards the line. And he's got the last bit of sector 3 to finish off now. Spoon 130R and the chicane plus final curve. And that will be his race complete, and he will take home the victory. As we
also, George, if you have a look at Malotto has made a gap in between Isherwood and Versace, so that didn't last very long before they got caught up with the GT3.
Yeah, I mean, it's at 10 seconds a lap that you can pull on it. So good work from Malotto to gain a position over Versace there. But here comes Morgan McCall, the ATK Academy MM number 19 Lamborghini, out through the final curve. Lights flashing as the checkered flag waves. Round 2 of Raceface.Pro Season 1. Second race at Suzuka is being completed up here, and the victory going to Morgan McCall. Bernard King for Rad Races, quite a way down the order from, or down the track from where McCall is, just going out to show the massive gap that Morgan managed to pull here. This is the Rad Races number 222, will take home second place. So his car number predicting his race finish 3 times over as he comes out through the final curve alongside one of the advantages. Flashes his lights as well. King will take home second place there for Rad Races. And then the drivers of the day for me, for sure, will go out to the EKZ Yeet team. Zillan Harding takes the checkered flag, but a great drive comes out from Corne Strauss and Zillan Harding in that number 55 for Black Ribbon Simulations. EKZ, what a drive for them, getting third place on the podium. Down in the GT4s, it will be a victory for the likes of Jason Isherwood. Surely he's got enough in this to get it to the line. We don't see Visaki in sight, and the GT4 will go alongside one of the GT3s, will bully himself out and say, you know what, I'm winning my class, I'm going to finish ahead of you, and a race down to the line as Visaki, as Isherwood, actually a little contact coming out as he comes down, takes the victory in the GT4s. That was Maloto actually trying to get past, gets himself over the line just ahead of Isherwood overall, so he doesn't finish behind the 2 GT4s of Visaki and Isherwood. But Arne Visaki in that KTM, he will take home second place in the GT4s, and then it will be Krailing in the number 16 taking home that third place on the podium. Let me pull up the timing sheet so you guys can see where everybody is before everybody pulls out. But Carl, that really wraps up our racing for this evening.
Yes, and what a race it actually was. It proved to be a kick, and I got much more than that. So thank you very much to you, George, and to all the viewers watching as well. Very big thank you.
Absolute pleasure, Carl. And like you said, massive thanks to all our viewers for joining us. A big shout out to our drivers for making this all possible. Resource Complete and Black Ribbon Simulations, of course, powering up the streams with Raceface.Pro. We'll be back tomorrow for the GT3 round. And of course, same time, same place next week on Wednesday. We'll be back for the mixed multi-class round 3. Should be good. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, leave a little cheeky like on the stream. If you hated it, you can leave a dislike. Likes or dislikes, engagements are engagements, and we appreciate you guys engaging with us. So from me, George Smith, out at Raceface.Pro, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the evening, and we will see you back tomorrow night.